Whenever you're alone with a woman, you're facing not one personality, but at least two. And your fatal flaw, the one 99% of men commit, is that you court, listen to, and sleep with the one who doesn't truly yearn for it. The first woman, the one you think you know, is her public armor, her persona, as psychiatrist Carl Jung would define it. This is the construct she has forged over a lifetime, shaped by the pressures of society, family, friends, and the digital world. We'll call her the princess or the good girl. Her core directive, etched into her very being, is to conform to expectations, to be pleasing, polite, graceful, and never appear crude or, heaven forbid, wanton. In the bedroom, her self-control is even more rigid than at the office. She's preoccupied with her appearance, the sounds she makes, whether she's too forward or too reserved. Her sexuality is a theatrical piece, a role she plays as the flawless lover, all while being terrified of forgetting her lines and revealing herself. And you are making love to this guarded, anxious effigy. But dwelling within every princess is a second woman, her shadow self, the piece of her soul that she herself dreads, rejects, and locks away in the deepest dungeon of her subconscious. Jung identified this as the shadow, while Sigmund Freud spoke of the unconscious, a seething cauldron of instincts he labeled the id. Let's name this second force the Huntress. Unlike the princess, the Huntress has no desire to be pleasing, she desires to be devoured. She isn't seeking affection, she yearns to be mastered. The polite "may I kiss you" repulses her. She fantasizes about being taken without permission, as it liberates her from all accountability. Compliments about her beauty do not arouse her, she is ignited by words that sanctify her filth. She wants to surrender, to shatter her control, to cry out not from obligation, but because the inferno within her has finally been unleashed. And this is the central paradox that shatters men. The princess will never voice this desire. Her social conditioning, her Freudian superego, that internal warden would sooner let herself immolate than allow her to utter, be rougher. Furthermore, if you ask her directly, she will almost certainly recoil in fear and denial. But her huntress, her shadow self, is waiting. She has been caged for decades, waiting not for a fairy tale prince. She is waiting for a master, a man with the wisdom and insight to stop negotiating with her social facade, a man who will see the steel bars of her cage and come not with a question, but with the key. This is not a lecture on techniques for delivering one more orgasm. This is a lesson in liberation. It's about becoming the only man who sees her in her entirety, the one she no longer fears, the one she permits to do things others only fantasize about in pulp fiction. Today, we will decipher this code. We will dissect the step-by-step method. First, how to sedate her ever-watchful censor, the princess, then, how to awaken her ravenous huntress, and finally, how to enthrone her, making her the undisputed queen of your domain. This will elevate your sex from a courteous exchange to a primal right, and you from a mere lover to the master of her very soul. But before we proceed, I require your confirmation that you are here with purpose. If all that I've said strikes a chord within you, if you are weary of shallow encounters and ready for profound depth, then like this video. Let that be our unspoken pact, a testament to your serious intent. And if this is your first time here, yet you already sense this channel is unlike any other, then subscribe, because discussions of this nature are the standard here, not the exception. And one final point, for our exchange to be truly meaningful, I need to know who is listening. Please, share your city and your age in the comments. This is more than data, it helps me to better sense our collective territory and spirit. Part 1. Disarming the censor. Thus, the first and most vital stage, neutralizing her internal guardian, that ceaseless critic residing in her mind, judging her every action. Freud would label this faculty the superego. It is the sum of every you should, you must not, and what will others think programmed into her from birth. This censor is petrified of judgment. Its sole mission is to ensure she never appears improper, available, or loose. While this guardian is on duty, her huntress is in chains. Your objective, therefore, is not to charge the cage, but to first lull the guard to sleep. For this, we have 3 infallible keys. Key number 1, verbal sanction. What is this? It is the forging of a sanctuary for her darker nature, using only your words. It is a direct, crystal clear message that her forbidden impulses are precisely what you desire. The psychology of why this works: her internal censor thrives on fear. The fear of your condemnation. It incessantly whispers, "Don't be too loud, he'll judge you as coarse, don't move that way, he'll think you have too much experience." Your words must not target her, but the censor itself. When you utter the correct phrases, you establish yourself as an authority greater than her inner critic. You grant her formal, masculine permission to be untamed. And her censor is silenced, its primary weapon, the fear of your disapproval, wrested from its grasp. How to execute this correctly? The core principles are confidence and an unwavering, commanding tone. No hint of a question. You are not asking, you are declaring. Your voice must be low, steady, perhaps with a touch of gravel. These phrases are not for the beginning, not while you're still dressed, but for the moments when the heat is rising, and she's already sinking into sensation. Let's examine an arsenal of phrases, categorized by their objective. The first set, phrases that validate the loss of control. Their aim is to convey that her composure does not excite you, but rather, it tires you. For instance, instead of a generic relax, you breathe into her ear, slowly, distinctly, "I love watching you lose control." Or, "Think of nothing, only feel." Another potent formula: forget who you are, be nothing but this body. And perhaps the most powerful: "I want the real you, not your polite version." These words are a direct command for her censor to stand down. The second set, phrases that dismantle her good girl persona. This is a more audacious level. Here, you openly identify her social mask and render it worthless. For example, when she's striving for perfection, you can pause, lock eyes with her, and say with a subtle smile, "Stop being such a good girl. It's profoundly dull." Or, "I have no need for a princess. Show me the creature hiding inside." This sparks a cognitive dissonance. She expects praise for her proper performance and instead receives a rebuke. This destabilizes the very foundation of her censor. The third set, phrases that glorify her shadow. This is the highest mastery at this stage. The moment she lets slip a louder moan or makes a sharper motion, you instantly reward it. "There, that is precisely what I want to hear. Yes, let me see that side of you. Do not conceal your fire from me." You become a mirror reflecting not her princess, but her huntress, and you show her that this reflection is magnificent. What is the cardinal male error here? Attempting to solicit this permission. A man asks, "Do you like it when I do this?" This question is a complete failure. It immediately transfers all responsibility back to her. It jolts her censor awake and forces it to analyze. What's the correct answer? How do I appear now, answering this? A master does not ask. A master declares. He reads her true response, in her breath, her muscles, the light in her eyes, and makes his own determination. Instead of asking, "Do you like it?" he affirms, "I know this feels good to you." The gap between the supplicant and the giver is the abyss separating a boy from a man. Key number 2, the sanctuary of darkness. What is this? It is creating an environment where her visual self-scrutiny dissolves, permitting her to be totally engulfed by physical sensation. The psychological underpinning: a vast amount of her sensor's energy is devoted to monitoring how she appears. Is her body arched elegantly? Is her face not grotesquely twisted in passion? Does she not look absurd? This visual surveillance is a formidable obstacle to true ecstasy. Darkness, twilight, or a blindfold offers her the ultimate gift: anonymity. She is no longer an object to be appraised, but a pure subject that only feels. Her fear of losing face vanishes, because there is no face to be seen. How to implement this? This is not about having sex exclusively in pitch blackness. It's about the artful manipulation of light in her line of sight. The ideal scenario involves a faint light source, placed behind or beside her, which traces silhouettes and shadows but doesn't illuminate her features. Candles, a dim lamp, ambient light from another room. These are your instruments. This crafts an intimate, almost hallowed atmosphere, where the everyday world fades away. The advanced tier is the direct command of her sight. A blindfold is a classic tool, but not every woman is immediately receptive. A gentler, yet more dominant move, is to simply cover her eyes with your palm at a moment of intensity. This is not a gesture of affection, it is a gesture of authority. You are communicating without words. Stop watching. Only experience what I am doing to you. This simple act bypasses her neocortex, her analytical engine, and engages the ancient, limbic structures of the brain that govern instinct. She cascades into pure sensation. Her breath deepens, her body yields. Her sensor, starved of visual data, goes quiet. What are the common mistakes? First, operating room lighting. Harsh overhead light annihilates all mystique and makes her feel exposed, as if on a specimen slide. The second is the awkward suggestion of a blindfold. Asking, "So, should I blindfold you?" can trigger anxiety or self-consciousness. Instead, you might playfully drape a nearby silk scarf over her eyes and gauge her reaction. Or, as noted, simply use your hand. An action, not an inquiry. You do not request, you guide. When her sight is taken away, her other senses ignite. The scent of your skin, the texture of your touch, the resonance of your voice, each is amplified to an extreme. You become her entire reality. This is more than just sex in the dark. It is a total recalibration of her senses, with you at the epicenter. And in this new reality, her social sensor has no jurisdiction. Key number 3, the transference of responsibility. This is the most nuanced and potent psychological maneuver in sedating the sensor. Its purpose is to grant her an internal pardon through your actions. To let her tell herself, "I am not this way. He made me this way." The psychological foundation. A woman conditioned by the good girl narrative cannot simply decide to initiate something deviant or primal. If she were to do so, her sensor would instantly attack her with shame. The burden of immorality would be hers to bear. But if the initiative is unequivocally yours, if your actions are a clear display of overwhelming masculine intent, her psyche discovers a crucial loophole. She can abdicate all responsibility and merely yield to the situation. She didn't choose it, she was compelled. This vital self-deception is the gateway to her liberation. How is it accomplished? Through an exhibition of dominance. Crucially, dominance is not violence. It is not cruelty. It is certainty, fused with absolute command of the moment. You do not ask for leave at every turn. You lead, she follows. You dictate the rhythm. You decide when to intensify, when to shift from tenderness to raw power. You are the sole director of this scene. Tangible examples: instead of a gentle embrace, you press her firmly against a wall, securing her wrists above her head with one hand. There is no pain, only a clear demonstration of your physical advantage. Instead of asking her to turn, you maneuver her body as you wish, with authority and deliberation. You are taking her, not asking for her to be given. Each such move sends a message to her subconscious: relax. I am in control. You need not decide a thing, simply yield. For her sensor, this is a profound relief. It can declare with a clear conscience, my authority is superseded here. This is his doing. And it can finally recede. The errors that spoil everything. The primary error is hesitation. If you grip her hair, but do it with an apologetic weakness, you will only create confusion. If you pin her to the wall, then ask, "Are you hurt?" you have shattered the entire illusion. Your actions must be congruent with your intent. You must inhabit your right to lead. The second error is confusing dominance with aggression. Dominance is a calm, centered power. Aggression is frantic, angry, a loss of control. A woman feels this distinction instinctively. To confident power she opens, from aggression she recoils in fear. When you lift the weight of responsibility from her, you grant her something far more precious in return: the freedom to be herself without the poison of guilt. She can scream, writhe, claw at your back, utter profane things, and feel no shame the next day. Because in her mind, she was not the bad girl. You were the man so powerful that you awakened a force within her she was helpless to resist. You become her perfect transgression, a memory she will replay with a racing heart. The sensor is sedated. The path to the Huntress's cage lies open. And now, we are prepared for the second act. Part 2, Unleashing the Huntress. While the first act was about dismantling her defenses, our mission now is to actively ignite her animalistic, instinctual core. We must communicate in the language of her body, the dialect of her limbic system, bypassing the rational filters of her mind. We must cease to be polite lovers and become conduits to a world of primal instinct. For this, we have 3 more keys, each more potent than the last. Key number 4, profane language. What is this? This is the use of words not as information, but as a vibrational tool to create a specific emotional state. It is the tuning fork that tunes her psyche to a primal frequency. Why it is effective, to a woman. Words are not mere data. They are triggers that unleash biochemical floods in her brain. The princess is stirred by compliments and endearments. The huntress, however, is roused by an entirely different vocabulary, by words that live under social taboo. Obscene, imperious, possessive words, whispered at the right instant, are like a defibrillator's shock. They strike her subconscious directly, hitting the part of her that has grown weary of civility and decorum. It is verbal proof that the rules no longer apply, and that her darkest self is not only accepted here but desired. How to do this without sounding crass? The secret is in 3 components: your voice, your timing, and your content. Your voice must be low, nearly a whisper, yet laced with hard, commanding undertones. It must be delivered directly into her ear, so the words themselves feel like a physical violation. The timing is paramount. You cannot lead with this. These words are the spice you add to a dish that is already boiling. They are deployed when she is already nearing the edge, her defenses weakened. The content must be precise. This is not thoughtless swearing. These must be words that underscore your authority and her submission, her corruption in the most sacred sense. Examples of potent phrasing. The first category, possessive declarations. You are mine. For tonight, you are my property. Spoken with a dominant whisper, these phrases strip her of the burden of choice and plunge her into the state of being owned. This is a profound archetypal trigger. The second category, direct commands. Simple, clipped orders. Look at me. Do not move. Breathe. These commands force her to anchor in the present moment and silence her inner monologue. The third, most volatile category, descriptive narration. You don't just act, you narrate the act, calling things by their true names, perhaps with a cruder edge than polite society allows. You become the voice of her own secret thoughts, articulating the very things she is afraid to acknowledge. The greatest male failing in this domain is inauthenticity. If you do not feel you own the moment, if your voice betrays a tremor of doubt or, worse, a question, the spell is broken. She will feel your weakness instantly. The second failing is excess. Do not turn the act into a non-stop barrage of obscenities. 2 or 3 precise, potent words at a peak moment have more impact than a 10-minute tirade. Be a scalpel, not a sledgehammer. Your words are not insults, they are instruments of psychological release. They must not degrade her, but instead liberate her shadow nature, giving it a name and permission to exist. Key number 5, primal touch. What is this? It is the transition from civilized, affectionate caresses to dominant, proprietary, instinctual contacts that communicate not love, but ownership and raw desire. The psychology of this method: the skin is the body's largest sensory organ. It holds memory. The touch of a princess is a gentle stroke, a light graze. It is pleasant, but it is safe. It does not call to the beast within. The touch of a huntress is a bite, a scratch, a powerful grip. This is a physical language understood without translation. When you cross this boundary, you send a clear signal to her nervous system. The social contract is suspended. This is now the domain of instinct. Her body responds before her mind can process the change. Ancient programming ignites, and she begins to answer you in the same primal tongue. How to manifest this? It is the art of the sudden shift. You begin with tenderness, disarming her, but then, at a calculated moment, the hand that was gently stroking her neck suddenly clamps down on it, firmly and masterfully, twisting into her hair at the base of her skull and pulling her in. Or the lips that were softly kissing her shoulder suddenly leave a light, but distinct, impression of teeth. The fingers that were gliding along her thigh suddenly seize it with a force that might leave a mark. This is not about inflicting pain. It must live on that exquisite razor's edge between pleasure and pain, the very territory where ecstasy is born. Let's examine specific zones and actions. The nape and hair. A firm, confident grasp of her hair is the ultimate symbol of dominance. It immediately places her in a state of submission. The neck and shoulders, light bites, mimicking a predator's claim, are a direct message to her limbic brain. The inner thighs, a strong, almost rough clenching of this area, is a sign of ownership, a branding of your territory. The wrists, a firm hold on her hands, removes a degree of her control and forces her to surrender her trust to you completely. Each such action should be sudden, unexpected, but executed with certainty, like a jolt of electricity that shocks a dormant body back to life. The catastrophic mistake is brutality without intent. If a man simply starts to hurt his partner, without any fuel for her response, he devolves from a dominant into an inept sadist. These actions are not the goal, they are a form of communication. You must be hyper-aware of her reaction. If her body tightens in fear rather than arousal, if her breath catches rather than quickens, you have pushed too far. The art is to keep her on that peak, constantly off balance, but never genuinely afraid. You must be a predator to her, yes, but her predator, the one she has chosen to let hunt her. Key number 6. Shattering the rhythm. What is this? It is the deliberate abandonment of a monotonous, predictable tempo, transforming the act into an erratic, dramatic performance, filled with pauses, crescendos, and jarring shifts in mood. Why is this so vital? The brain acclimates to monotony with incredible speed. If you move in a consistent rhythm, it adapts and relegates the experience to the background. The loss of control is impossible in a predictable landscape. To wrest her from the grip of her conscious mind, you must demolish her expectations. A violent shift in pace, from agonizingly slow to feral and savage, a dead stop at the moment of highest intensity, this shatters her internal schemas. Her body is forced into an instinctive response because her brain cannot compute what will happen next. Practical execution. Envision yourself as a conductor. You begin a passage with excruciating slowness, almost at a standstill. You bring her to the point where she herself begins to move against you, pleading for continuation. At that very instant, instead of a smooth acceleration, you erupt into a frantic, furious, almost violent tempo. Then, at the absolute summit, just as she is about to break, you stop utterly. You freeze, and for a few heartbeats, you just stare into her eyes, motionless. The silence after such a storm is profound. It will drive her to the brink of madness. Then, you begin again, but with a new theme. You must use the entire dynamic spectrum. From 1 to 10, the average man performs at a steady 7, moderately paced and utterly predictable. Your duty is to use it all. Begin at a 2, tormentingly slow, leap to a 9. A savage rhythm. Then plummet to 0, a complete halt, nothing but breath and locked eyes. Then a 3, then a 10. You must become a force of nature in your unpredictability. She must have no idea what you will do in the next second. It is precisely this state of total uncertainty that opens the gates to her complete surrender. Her body and her instinct seize control because her rational mind surrenders to your controlled chaos. The most common error is a fear of the pause. A man worries that if he stops, the moment will be lost, the arousal will dissipate. This is a fundamental misunderstanding. A pause, executed at the right moment, is the most powerful catalyst for arousal. It is the vacuum which, when broken, explodes with twice the force. Do not fear the silence. Do not fear the stillness. You must command not only movement, but the lack of it. It is in these moments of silence and stillness that her huntress finally recognizes that she is in the hands of a master, one who is not afraid to break every rule. And she will give herself to him completely. It is at this moment that we can proceed to the final, consecrating act. Part 3, Enthroning the Huntress. This is the conclusion, and it is the most critical part of this entire lesson. Because your actions after the climax will determine if this was a singular event or the start of her permanent transformation. 99% of men fail at this last, crucial stage. They either roll over and sleep, or they act as if nothing extraordinary occurred, forcing her back into her princess costume. In doing so, they invalidate the entire experience. They signal to her that her dark side is an indulgence to be forgotten until next time. A master does the precise opposite. He does not force the huntress back into her cage. He crowns her. Key number 7. praise for transgressions. What is this? It is the verbal and nonverbal cementing of her new reality. It is your deliberate response to her untamed behavior, an act that validates her huntress for all time. The psychological core. In the immediate aftermath of ecstasy, as the biochemical tempest in her mind begins to calm, her censor, her superego, is the first to stir, and it immediately begins its corrosive work. What was that? How did I behave? What must he think of me? This is her moment of maximum vulnerability. She is scanning your face, your words, for proof of her deepest fears. She anticipates judgment, or at best, a patronizing silence. If she receives either, the cage door slams shut on her huntress, perhaps for good. She will believe she has revealed too much. Your task is to launch a preemptive strike against the encroaching shame. You must not merely comfort her, you must express all for the very side of her she now feels guilty about. You must enthrone her huntress. How is it done? In the moments after the climax, while breath is still short, you do not turn away. You pull her to you, find her eyes, hold her gaze with gravity and intensity, and you speak the vital words, "Not that was good" or "I love you." Those words are for the princess. The huntress requires a different tribute. Examples of phrases for this coronation: "You were magnificent. I never imagined the inferno you keep hidden inside. Never conceal that part of yourself from me. It is precisely that which I desire to see. What you just did undoes me completely." These words, delivered with a tone of reverence and wonder, detonate like a bomb in her psyche. Instead of the judgment she braced for, she receives the ultimate praise. You are not just saying you enjoyed the sex, you are saying you were in awe of her, the authentic, savage, unrestrained her. You are legitimizing her shadow. You are making it clear that her transgressions are not flaws, but are, in your eyes, her most profound virtue. This conversation afterward is more significant than the act itself. You can lie with her for a long time, holding her, continuing to speak of it, not of your day, not of plans, but of her. I love the light in your eyes when you let go of control. Your body is so alive when you allow it to be wild. You are forging a new neural pathway in her brain. Being bad equals receiving this man's deepest admiration and love. This unburdens her from a lifetime of shame. It gives her license to be herself, not only in your bed but in her life. She starts to grasp that her power lies not in being convenient, but in being authentic. The final epiphany for you: by completing this ritual of coronation, you gain more than a lover. You gain her absolute trust. She has revealed the most secret, darkest part of herself to you, and not only did you not condemn it, you worshipped it. After such an experience, a man becomes singular. All other men will seem to her like bland, timid, superficial boys who are terrified of her true nature. You become the one safe harbor where her huntress can exist without a cage. And she will never trade that freedom for anything. A true king does not seek a compliant handmaiden. He seeks a wild queen, and he crowns her himself. Conclusion: the final word for the viewer. We have traveled this entire road together, from understanding the dual nature of the feminine to the specific keys that unlock the most secret chambers of her soul. We have learned to pacify her social censor, the princess, and to awaken her primal core, the huntress. We have understood that this is not about mechanics, but about psychology. Not about what you do, but about the reality you construct. In a reality of safety, the princess can sleep. In a reality of dominance and permission, the huntress can awaken. Grasp this essential truth. Subconsciously, a woman does not seek a man who will indulge her every whim. She seeks a man who will establish his own law. She has grown tired of her endless choices, of the crushing responsibility of modern freedom. In her soul, she dreams of a man to whom she can completely surrender her trust, because she can feel his power, his certainty, his right to lead. In becoming this man, you give her the ultimate gift, the chance, for a short time, to release her grip on control and simply be a woman in the most primal, archetypal sense of the word. This is not about manipulation. It is about profound understanding. You are not breaking her, you are setting her free. You are helping her to embrace her own shadow, to integrate it, to cease fearing it. And a woman who accomplishes this with your guidance is transformed for all time. The light in her eyes changes. Her movements become more fluid, more assured. She blossoms, not just as a lover, but as a human being, because you have shown her that she is whole, that her dark side is not a stain, but a source of unimaginable power and vitality. This is how a true, deep bond is forged, one that does not weaken with time. It is not dependent on appearance, wealth, or status. It is founded on the fact that you became her guide back to herself. You became the one man with whom she can be everything, good and bad, tender and savage, angel and beast, and for that, she will be grateful to you on a level that most men cannot even begin to comprehend. And now, the final question, not for her, but for you. Having processed everything we have covered today, answer with honesty in the comments, which of the enumerated mistakes was your primary one? What, as you now see it, was your fundamental error in engaging with women on this, the deepest of all levels? This act of honest self-reflection is the first, most crucial step toward becoming a true master. Let us build our collective library of wisdom in the comments below. It will serve every man here who is ready to evolve. Thank you for lending your time to this discourse. And remember, the strength of a man is not in finding the perfect woman, but in liberating the woman who is already with him.